A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers to the show, think about it. Before we begin with today's topic, if you do like the content of this show and you enjoy what we present in front of you, and it might give you something to, of course, think about, remember to hit the subscribe button below. Because if you do so, then guess what? We've got more subscribers and we might end up coming up with more content. With that said, if you guys have any content or any topic in mind that you think should be covered, that we should do our research on, because that's what we're here to do. Inshallah, we will do our research on it and present it to you with the best of our knowledge and attempt, inshallah. Today's topic is one that I think I might have covered in the past in previous topics and previous shows, but this is something that requires a lot of focus. And because it requires a lot of focus, it also requires a lot of reminders. And this is upbringing. When we talk about children and upbringing, I work in a school as well. I'm an educator at heart. And I get to see parents who have a lot of concerns over their children, especially how they're growing, especially the language that they use, the influences that they might have, and different things that might play a factor into building their personalities. All of these things are very natural, they're very normal, and for all of our viewers who are parents, for all of our viewers who are children, this show is dedicated to you. So basically it's across the board for everyone, inshallah. If you have friends who are parents, if you have friends who have children, then inshallah you could take a message away from this show and you could probably present it to them while they're having a conversation over dinner or a gathering, inshallah. The main issue that I would like to present today is one that is very real, and it's from an example, a story that I'll base off of, as I usually do. And the story is of a couple that come to school, and mashallah, they have a boy who's about to go into grade 5. Now, grade 5 is a decent grade. It's a grade where students are expected to know how to read, write, they're supposed to know about culture, and they're fluent in at least communicating with each other and getting things across the board. The only thing in grade 5 that happens is that they receive more content information on certain subjects, depending on where they're studying, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in America, whether you're anywhere around the world, really, you get content. You get knowledge, you get information, and then you have an opportunity to practice that information in class. That's the main concept of grade 5. Now, obviously, some schools, as they should, focus on character, discipline, mannerisms, and behaviorisms as well, which is absolutely great, and every school should be doing so. They should be focusing on character building. When it comes to character building, a couple whose child was in grade 5. So grade 5 approximately what? Age ranges from 9 to 11 probably, depending on what group that child belongs to. They presented a concern to the principal of a school. They went to the principal and they said that we're worried about our child because the child is studying in a school and we believe that that school and your school have different schools of thoughts. But your school is way too expensive for us to afford because your school is a private school. We send our kids to a public one. And so your fee structure is so strong and quite high, and not everybody can afford it. But we want to send our child to your school. Is there any financial aid that you can provide us? Now at this moment, a principal, a leader, anyone who is listening to their parents can take two routes. One of two routes. So what route can you take? The first route is that the parents have already given you the floor and said that your school is really good and really nice and whatever the case is. So you can take that and say our school is the best, and you justify the reason why it might be expensive. You could say that you need to pay teachers' salaries. You could talk about the events that happen at the school, the extracurricular activities, so on and so forth. Or you could talk about the second point, which quite honestly is seldom spoken about. Those who do, good for you. And that is to talk to the parents about upbringing. How do you raise a child? Point is, what parents do need to understand, what our dear viewers need to understand, if you are children, you have parents, you are more than welcome to speak about this stuff with your parents. There should be always open dialogue and communication between children and parents. The only reason why we might have a generation gap, a show that we've done before, is because communication isn't there. People say give time to your kids. Giving time to your kids doesn't mean you sit down, watch TV, or have your mobile in front of you while your kids are doing something. it doesn't mean you've given them time. Time is actual communication. Time is actual struggle to understand your children. Time is sitting down, talking to your kids, finding out what their interests are, what they like, what they dislike, what their experiences have been like. Believe it or not, a child who is 3 years old has had experiences. A child who is 2 has had experiences as well. Obviously, the younger the age, the more the experiences are in front of the parents. The older the age, experiences might be acculturated from external forces, which the parents haven't seen yet. Maybe it was out in a park, maybe it was with other cousins, maybe it was with friends, maybe it was at a family gathering or a friend gathering. You went with your family to a picnic, you went with your family to another friend's house, kids are in one room and they're playing. Guess what? When a child is left on their ownness, that means left individually in some atmosphere, definitely they have an experience. These experiences also teach children something. And it is important for parents to understand the experiences that their children are going through. Not listen to them, but understand them. Because once you've understood them, you have an edge. You have a relationship, an actual relationship. Allow me to take this moment to decipher what the word relationship means. Relationship has nothing to do with blood, to be honest. The word itself has nothing to do with blood. Maybe an Oxford Dictionary or Webster Dictionary might differ with me, but I'm talking about the root word relate. Relate becomes relationship. Relate means when 2 or more people have an understanding, know what they are going through, understand how they think. So I would understand how somebody thinks, they would understand how I think. The reason we have friends, we have a social circle. We have some friends we hang out with or meet more than others. Why is that? We believe that our wavelengths match. We believe that the vibe is something that gels well together. So, with all that said, a relationship is in fact when 2 or more people can relate to one another. If that doesn't exist, you can be a father and a son, a mother and a daughter, or any relationship that takes one generation to another. But if you don't understand what's going on, believe it or not, that's not a relationship. As hard as that might be for some people to understand, that is not a relationship. So, these parents who were talking to the principal expressed their concern. Now, as I said, people can take 2 routes. The principal decided to take the second route, talking about upbringing, and said that we understand that you are worried about your child. Every parent is. Who isn't? You're worried about what they might learn. You're worried about what they might say. You're worried about what types of influences they might go through. You're worried about what kind of thought patterns they might have. All these different things are very genuine. But when a child is young, their world is their parent. So children, up until you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, your entire world is your parents. You might feel like you're an adult. You might have interests. You might be playing video games. I mean, nowadays you've got kids who use iPads. And so you've got Roblox happening on one side. You've got Minecraft on the other. You might have Fortnite happening on one place. You might be watching cartoons or whatever the case is. You might be into different types of cartoons, whether it be Paw Patrol, Peppa Pig, or I don't know, you have, Fireman Sam or whatever the case is. Everything on Netflix and whatever. These are very common terms and very common things that happen because they happen in my household as well. Now, all these things that are happening and that children are interested in, the biggest mistake a parent can make, not does make, can make. And for those parents who might have made this mistake to reflect upon or, well, think about, is that these interests that their children came up with or have or indulge in, do the parents understand these interests completely? For me, for example, I would sit down and watch a cartoon that my son watches. In fact, I would develop an interest in it. In fact, there are times when I'm sitting down watching a cartoon with my son and 5 minutes later my son's not there and I'm still watching the cartoon. It happens. It's a part of life. In fact, it's healthy too, because it helps you connect with your childish or childhood or, let's say, infant side. Everyone talks about being sensitive, being aggressive, being this. There are times when we should also be childish. There are times when we should not have any worries. And that gate for parents is their children. Spend time with your kids and you'll feel like a kid. Spend time with your kids, you'll understand things better. And so, the principal decided to tell the parents about upbringing. Said that we understand that you might be busy, you might have 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs. At the end of the day, yes, you're out there trying to provide for your family. But kids don't care if you have 4 jobs. They don't care if you have 3. They don't even care if you have a job. The only thing they need is someone who loves them and understands them. Believe it or not, kids only want someone who understands them. Every single school out there, for all of you people who are parents, for all of you people who are children who might be listening to this show today, is it not true, if you ask a teacher, a person who's regarded to be a very good teacher, what is so special about them? Why is it that kids like them? They might be very good teachers in terms of being able to impart knowledge. But one of their main aspects and main edges that they have, a talent that they have, a skill that they have, that everyone should have and everyone can have, is that they can relate to their students. So the principal went on to talk about how parents need to make time for their kids. Because right now, for your kids, their entire world is you, the parents. And that means even if they're 8 or 9 years old and they have personal preferences, they can get nothing done unless it goes through you. Unless you give the approval or okay. They're not getting a new game unless you buy it. They're not getting a new toy unless you buy it. They're not getting that snack or getting that food ordered from outside unless, you guessed right, you get it. So, with that, the principal explained to the parents that you need to give time to your kids at home and make sure that you're able to overcome that generation gap that might exist or that could exist. And that's how you relate to your kids. Once you're able to do that, things start making sense. And the principal said that if you don't have the finances right now, the school might offer a bursary or a financial assistance program, but not at that time. They said that inshallah, when that time comes, you may apply. For now, if you don't have the finances, maybe there's a maslahah from Allah. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe after a few months or a few years or whatever the case is, you'll start making more money than you ever did before. Rizq min Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written down what every single human being will be making, regardless of what difficult situation you might be in, regardless of how many jobs you might have right now. In fact, the reason why you have so many jobs is because you're multi-talented. The reason why you're striving and going forward and struggling for your family is because you are so talented and you have so much energy in you that you're able to do so much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never puts a soul, a human being, in an issue or in a test or in some form of turmoil or hindrance that they cannot come out of. And so the principal went on to teach them and talk to them about upbringing. And the parents walked away with a good message. They felt a bit lighter. They felt a bit proud of themselves as well because someone motivated them. And number 3, they realized that if they can't afford the school right now, inshallah, they'll be able to afford it sometime down the line. Inshallah, they have much more to do. Maybe they don't need to afford the school. Maybe their parenting can be that pivot for their children that help them become well-rounded individuals. With that, we're going to be taking a short break. Stay tuned.
पूरे ऑन्टेरियो में लाखों लोग अपनी कोविड-19 की वैक्सीन हासिल कर चुके हैं। हेल्थ कनाडा की मंजूरशुदा तमाम वैक्सीन्स महफूज और अस्पतालों, डॉक्टर्स के दफातर, फार्मेसीज और अवामी वैक्सीनेशन के मुकामात पर हासिल हैं। अपना किरदार अदा करें, अपनी वैक्सीन हासिल करें। 300 जुबानों में मदद के लिए ontario.ca/book vaccine पर जाएं या 1-888-999-6488 पर कॉल करें।
पाकिस्तान का सबसे मशहूर एक्स्ट्रा लॉन्ग ग्रेन मुगल बासमती राइस अवेलेबल इन बोथ व्हाइट एंड सिला। होम डिलीवरी इज अवेलेबल सब्जेक्ट टू मिनिमम ऑर्डर एंड रेडियस, ऑल्सो अवेलेबल एट योर नेबरहुड फ्रेश कोड। मजीद मालूमात के लिए आज ही कॉन्टैक्ट करें 514-6630-480 पर या ऑर्डर करें हमारे फेसबुक से। बनाए ये रमजान और भी खास मुगल बासमती के साथ, द प्रीमियम चॉइस फॉर प्रीमियम टेस्ट। 2020 का लाजवाब ऑफर, जहां हम 0% फाइनेंसिंग पर आपकी मनपसंद कार दे रहे हैं, फ्री विंटर टायर्स, और साथ ही हम मुफ्त ऑयल चेंज भी दे रहे हैं, वो भी उम्र भर के लिए। अभी आएं और इस लाजवाब ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। जल्दी करें, आपका खुशामदीद हमारे आउटलेट में, जो कि 60 क्वींस प्लेट ड्राइव एट इंटरसेक्शन क्लोज टू हाईवे 27 एंड रेक्सडेल अपोजिट टू वुडबाइन रेस ट्रैक। जल्द से जल्द इस ऑफर का लुत्फ लें। आज ही कॉल करें सुनील अग्रवाल को 647-703-0218।
KK Travel believe in providing everyone the first-class customer service. We take care not only for your air ticket, but dignity and respect as well. We are available for you anytime on WhatsApp, even while you are in Pakistan or any other destination. KK Travels guarantee lowest prices and are open to price match any airline.
We are KK Travels under supervision of Gas Khan at 905-367-9433 or visit www.gaskhontravels.com.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the show. Think about it. We left off talking about a very important point that requires constant reminders, and that is upbringing. We talked about parents and their roles when it comes to upbringing. We talked about relationships and what the word relationship actually means, relating to one another. We talked about the hardship that people go through just so that they could provide for their home, for their kids, for their family. All these things are very well where they are. There's nothing wrong with any of them. Anyone can sit down and complain about an issue that they're facing. But subhanAllah, as a Muslim, and inshallah, I believe that most of my viewers are Muslims as well. And for those of you who are not, I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all hidayah, make your lives easier as well, and bring you to the right path, inshallah. The point is, God never puts a soul in an issue or within a problem that soul cannot come out of. So that means every single issue that we have in this world, we can succeed and come out with flying colors. Which brings us back to the point of upbringing. Now, I've talked about parents, I've talked about relationships. So let's move from relationships to the next point that makes sense. Is a child's upbringing solely a parent's responsibility? I'll give you all 3 seconds to answer that question. If you answered no, you're right. It is not only a parent's responsibility. It is your neighbor's responsibility. It is the teacher's responsibility. It is the school's responsibility. It is the management's responsibility. In fact, it is every single adult's responsibility. And when I say this, I don't say this as something that is a hard and set rule that when your kid is born, other people have to take responsibility. No, 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 no. I say this as a community. As a community, when your kids are playing in the park and they have a fight with another kid, let's say they had a bit of a spat. Let's say another kid hit them. Let's say something was used to hit another child. What does a parent do? They could become extremely defensive, come to the rescue of their child, maybe even aggravate the situation by indulging in an argument with another parent or with the child that actually was involved in that quarrel. When these things happen, when this is the situation, I must be very blunt, and I apologize in advance, but I'm going to explain to you why. Those parents who indulge in arguments and come to the defense of their kids, and they're ready to fight, unfortunately, that's not what educated people do. Children are children everywhere. They have no malice in their heart. They have nothing, no hatred in their heart. Children do things according to their impulses, according to their emotions. The younger a child, the more egocentric, the more self-involved, the less their attention span is, the more excited they can get on things. So there's no preference here. There's no hate and fighting over here. The only thing there are learning curves. So how do you respond to someone who might hurt your child? How do you respond to someone who might actually have done something not knowing So a community needs to step up. When you see a child at a grocery store, at a mall, that might be having a tantrum, instead of making a weird face and looking at that child and the parents and making them feel bad, you smile. Now I say this as an imperative because you need to do this. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, you're going to be a parent too, or you already are a parent. If, na'udhu billah, inshallah khair, you ever face that issue where your child for that 5 to 10 minutes didn't listen to you, and it happens to be a public place, how would you want people to respond to you? You see, we live in a world where a lot of people show aggression in many times, at many phases and facets of their lives, at many aspects and many moments. Whether you're waiting for something at a restaurant and you're angry while you're waiting for it, whether you don't have the patience for it, whatever the case might be. The point is, we have confused mannerisms. Mannerisms are very important. The moment a child sees not just their own parents or uncles or aunts or grandparents, but any adult, deal with a situation wisely, smile, be able to have that patience, that child has learned something. And that contributes to their upbringing. We as a community need to stand up. Teachers need to stand up. Teachers cannot afford to be impatient with children. And when I say that, I don't mean because their salary is on the line or because they're contracted. I say that because a teacher's job is just so amazing. Every teacher in their own right is a hero. Every teacher in their own right is a frontliner. Every teacher in their own right is a parent, even if they're not married and they don't have children of their own. A very famous educator once said that I start calling my students my kids after the end of the year, because in that 1 year they aren't my students anymore. I've built a relationship with them. Similarly, if you have aunts and uncles in the house, when they see kids, they look at them misbehaving at times, they look at them acting amazing at times, they see them saying thank you at times, they see them throwing tantrums at times. You're a part of that circle. What you do and say affects and impacts a child. As a community, we need to stand up and be there for children, because they are our future, but we are the present. You can't tell children that you're the future, we expect this and that from you, good luck. What are we doing right now? What are the leaders of the world who are sitting right now in their chairs, where they are, what are they doing right now? It's in our hands to set an example. They always say lead by example. What does that mean? They always say leaders show empathy. What does that mean? As Muslims, we believe the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is an ideal, is a role model for us to follow. How many times have you heard in the seerah of the Prophet that he has lost his cool or has been impatient with children? How many times have you seen that he might have set a bad example for children? Na'udhu billah. It doesn't happen. So what we've done is, upbringing is not just about bringing a child up. Upbringing is the surrounding. So it's how we act. In a child's upbringing, we're actually upbringing ourselves too. So if you're dealing with kids and you don't know how to, or you make a mistake, or whatever the case is, you're actually embedding a lesson into yourself. So the second part of today's show is upbringing isn't only for young people. It's for adults as well. We learn things every single day, whether they be skills, whether they be ways of talking and communicating, whether they be something that's practical. We are all learning day by day, and we don't stop learning until we leave this earth. So basically, when we act a certain way with children, we end up developing a certain habit within ourselves, and that is an upbringing for us. A person who is 60 or 70 years old might have a lot of life experience, but might not be able to connect well with a young person because he or she doesn't understand technology that well. They don't understand the trends that are going on at that time. This isn't something bad, and this isn't something you just let go. This is something you can work on, because it in fact plays a role in the upbringing of that 60, 70, 80-year-old person as well as that child as well as the parents who are in the middle and everyone around us. So upbringing is not exclusive to kids anymore. It's for all of us. You, me, and our kids. So how are we going to bring ourselves up? Very simple. We're going to start relating to each other more, taking time to understand each other more. Things that we like and we don't like, we're going to make them part of our routines to understand whether we like them or don't like them. We give the floor to kids to express their opinions. We give the floor to children to make decisions, and then they have to face accountabilities. And so children grow up. If you keep them under an umbrella and you tell them that you're not allowed to make a decision because you're young, oh, you're not going to understand, you're too young, oh, you don't know, I've done this, and da-da-da, whatever tone you might take. What you're in fact doing is ruining your own upbringing as well as that child's. So what we're going to do from now on, inshallah, is try to relate to each other more. For starters, learn what your kids like. Sit down, watch a cartoon with them. Sit down, see how they play a game. Try to understand it. Take them out. Try to make them understand you. Try to make them understand your hobbies, your likes and your dislikes. Try to make them understand things that you enjoyed when you were their age. Maybe even introduce it to them if you think it might be a fun activity. Many parents do this, yes they do. But do you actually take the time to sit down and comprehend and digest everything? That's the question. With that, think about it. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Inshallah, see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.